Hi everyone, hope you all are doing well. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to spend next 20 minutes talking to you about our experience at Flipkart with respect to remote usability testing, where I will be discussing about how remote usability testing has evolved in the last 2 years and how it has helped us to stay afloat in the COVID hit world. COVID-19 touched all our lives. It caught us off guard. We weren't prepared for what was awaiting us in the next few months or years, which is coming our way. Lockdown, restrictions, social distancing were the measures which were imposed on us. Remote working was the new norm. All these things impacted researchers' life hugely. On the other hand, business was as usual in a lot of sectors. However, in the e-com business, we saw a huge surge in the demand, not just from our existing users, but also from a lot of new users who came on the platform to fulfill their needs. This led to a lot of innovations, new launches, experience revamp to come our way. This in turn put huge pressure on the research team. We had to cope with the growing demand from the business. The need of the hour was to reinvent to stay relevant. Why do I say this? Over the years, we were very comfortable doing in-person usability testing. That was the method we applied across all the studies where we had to evaluate an experience, evaluate a new product, or a revamp of the existing product. Owing to which there were beliefs, opinions, practices which were established towards how usability testing needs to be performed. All these were put to test. We believed that in-person interview is the most optimum way of doing usability testing. We even conducted these in neutral setting because we felt over the years that it got us the best results. It was also recommended to conduct usability tests on company-owned devices and not on the customer devices, primarily because it assured us the safety of the new experience that we were testing. While this is what we did in the COVID-free world, this was not realistic in the new world, which actually pushed us out of our comfort zone. We had to think out of the box. We had to act swiftly. We had to find a quick solution before things moved south for us. The lead time was less than 15 to 20 days. The question was, what is it that we're going to do to stay relevant in the challenging times? What is the future of research? What is the future of doing usability testing? While all this was happening and we were thrown into this state where we constantly questioned ourselves, we were debating, we were trying to identify different solutions, it led to a situation where we had to think beyond the usual things that we did. In the process, what happened was that we were propelled towards adapting remote usability testing, so-called the poor sister of usability testing. While we believed that it was best to do in-person testing in these studies, as it allowed us to observe participants firsthand, where we would able to observe how the body language of the user came across as they were experiencing the product, and the physical cues that we could gather during these sessions helped us interpret the data better and come up with more actionable and better insights. While remote usability testing was something that we were all aware of, we had tried it in the past, but not as many times as we did with in-person usability testing. Our understanding about remote usability testing was quite different. We believed that it was relevant only for those studies where time and budget was a constraint. We believed that it was best in those instances where we were researching digitally savvy users. We also stayed away from putting remote usability testing into use because we felt that it offered us very less control over the environment in which the participant tested these experience, which we felt could hamper the output of the research. Now, the other thing which actually also, pushed us from putting remote usability testing to use a lot many times was we always believed that it needed advanced tools to host remote usability testing. Now, with all these questions, apprehensions, skepticism, we couldn't do much. We didn't have other options other than jumping into utilizing this method to test the new experiences that were coming our way. What did we realize? The journey wasn't easy. Initially, we had to scrap off studies and restart from the beginning. The number of dropouts increased. We had to work with more backups. We had to send multiple reminders through alternate medium of communication, such as WhatsApp. The other big hurdle that we came across was poor connectivity. At Flipkart, we research a lot with non-metro users. And as you go to non-metro cities and towns, we realize that the connectivity problem increases. These users buy prepaid data packs, and they're very frugal about how they utilize their data. They were not comfortable utilizing this data for these sessions. We had to come up with a way to help these users to have better connection to conduct these sessions. Hence, we worked with our field partner to facilitate data packs and incentives to motivate the users to participate in these research studies. Once we took care of the operations, the other issues also started surfacing. One of the issue was, it was not like the in-person session where you could see the user could see you, and it was easy to have the conversation. It was easy to get the user comfortable and open up. This was a remote setting. It was new to all of us. We as researchers were not comfortable doing these sessions. We had to comfort ourselves first, feel in control, and then also make our users feel comfortable so that they could open up and share their opinion more freely. In order to do this, we had to set aside longer time to build rapport and make connections with the users. Hence, our session time increased. Now, if you think of the COVID-free world where we did our usability testing, there were many times when we would run into field with stimulus which was more or less there. It was not 100% because we were confident that as we were doing this, we were there to explain, we were there to resolve problems for our users. But in remote usability testing, you can't take this for granted. You need to put in effort to ensure that the concept and the prototype that you're going to test are 100% and would work seamlessly on the user's device. Thus, we had to take extra care in developing stimulus for these studies. After the initial hiccups, as we moved further in exploring remote usability testing, we uncovered greater goodness. We were able to utilize remote usability testing for a variety of studies. We even experimented combining user testing with generative studies. We even tested builds through remote usability testing. As we all have heard many a times, the testing times test us, but they also bring best out of us. Why am I saying this? The way we started off with remote usability testing, it had a lot of apprehensions. It had a lot of skepticisms. We believed that it worked only in certain setting, for certain studies. But as we started using it, we realized the goodness of this wonderful approach. What were these goodnesses that we unearthed? Let me walk you through those. It improved accessibility to our users. The geography barriers blurred. We were able to meet users beyond metro. We were able to reach out to the users in the remote parts of the country. We also realized that users were a lot more comfortable in these sessions as they were in their own environment. They felt less intimidated and awkward. We were also able to see how in the real life, if the user came across few hurdles or few issues, how they resolve them, because immediately they would reach out to people in their house in these sessions. That actually made it so clear for us as to how things actually pans out at the user's end when they're interacting with these products or features back in their environment. Remote usability testing also helped us collaborate better with our stakeholders. We were able to take our stakeholders along with us on this journey, which witnessed richer and deeper participation of our stakeholders, which helped us to get better buy-in from them on the findings, on the insights that we gathered on the study. This also helped them to empathize better with the user and the issues the user would face in a real life setting. The other advantage of having remote usability testing that we realized was we were able to increase productivity. We were able to turn around studies much faster. The sense of agility within the team enhanced. We were able to hit the field sooner. We were able to deliver the findings faster. We took ambitious deadlines. We even ran multiple projects at the same time. All this was possible because of remote usability testing. According to me, there was another great advantage of having remote usability testing is we were able to test the iterated experience as we moved along the journey. Every time we were able to test the improved version. This is the wonderful advantage, according to me. Now, having spoken to you about the greatness of remote usability testing and how the entire outlook towards remote usability changed for us at Flipkart, I would like to now walk you through a case study where we took this adventurous experiment to test a build through remote usability testing. Before I dwell deep into the study specifics, I would like to set some context about the study so that you could better understand the complexity that it had in it. This was a study where we were testing the navigation experience of one of the categories which was business critical. This was the experience that was conceptualized for bottom navigation bar. The navigation experience was twisted owing to different entry points with different value props. Thus, it was critical to understand how the users transitioned between different value props as they started the journey on the platform. Secondly, to understand how the new bottom bar was utilized and comprehended in the scoped category experience. And we thought that the best way to approach this problem was through conducting task-based remote usability testing, which comprised of shopping list of mixed category items. The stimulus that we used here was a build. Now, why did we use build? Given the complexity of the experience, it was necessary to ensure the tested experience stimulated real-life situation. Testing with the build gives the user the freedom, control to browse, and would be open-ended. This in turn will help us in mining richer and validating insights. Using a build, especially when we wish to test navigation patterns of behavior, is an ideal approach. Now, if we had to use prototype instead of a build, what would happen? With a prototype, a journey can be stitched in limited ways and cannot replicate how naturally a user may hop from one navigation element to another. This can have impact on our learnings. A prototype in this testing instance can actually become leading and hence color the findings. Thus, we preferred to use build over a prototype in this study. Now let me walk you through how did we go about executing this study. This study was a 5-staged study where we started off with discussing collecting requirement from our stakeholders, like we typically do in all our studies. We put together a proposal with which we met with our next set of stakeholders who were engineers here. We had to share the requirement. We had to assess the feasibility and how much time they would take to come up with a build. We even discussed the security measures that needs to be put in place to have the build tested. As part of next stage, we had to connect with our InfoSec team, the legal team, to get the approvals, to ensure that all the security measures are taken and the build sharing process is in place. Once this was taken care, once build was created, we moved into the next stage where we had to test the build and debug. The last and the final stage was the execution stage, where we had to interact with our field partner. We had to onboard the participants. We had to set up the process to install build on the user phones, prep the users, take time off in each session to set up the build, document bugs and variables. And not forgetting the part where you had to uninstall the build and remove users from whitelist before we close the session. This study called for great collaboration. We worked across different cross functions. We worked with engineers, product team, design team, InfoSec, and legal team. It was a wonderful learning experience for the entire team which worked on this project. Now let me talk to you about the pros and cons. The pros were, we were able to tailor the task to observe more realistic, naturalistic user behavior, where it gave the users a lot more freedom to fail, try multiple times, multiple paths to achieve success in the task. This actually mimicked the real world scenario for us. It also helped us identify some of the hurdles that the user might come across when they use this feature back when they're alone. Some of these were delay in load times, occurring of error states, which actually impact the usability. Study findings were far more deeper, richer. It was much more clear in terms of what actionable, what recommendations we need to make. The downside of having built, tested through remote usability testing, was that it took much longer time than a typical study would take. Because here we had to get the buy-in from multiple cross-function teams. We had to get approval from the legal and infosec team. We also had to set good amount of time in each research session so that we could install the build, ensure the build worked well on the user device. This actually extended our session timeline. Every session lasted longer than an hour. Security concerns and build approvals may also take a lot of time at times, which could delay your project. But when the data starts coming in, you realize the pros are so valuable that they far outweigh the cons. This was our experience of utilizing remote usability testing to evaluate one of the most complex builds that we had at Flipkart. I'm happy to take questions, discuss more, discuss your experience towards remote usability testing in the last 1.5 to 2 years. Thank you.